the game of the weekend, I guess, at least for our purposes in the state of Tennessee, was Purdue, Tennessee. Final score, Boilermakers 72, Tennessee 66. Oh, buddy, if you were hoping the Zach Edey, Dalton Knecht National Player of the Year conversation, to the extent that it even existed, and it really didn't, other than on Tennessee message boards. In the rest of the real world, everybody understood that thing had been wrapped up for a little while. But if you were to holding out hope, if you put on your orange shirt, well, holding out hope, well, maybe this will be the day that Dalton Knecht shows the whole world he's really the best basketball player in the sport. Well, that wasn't. Zach Edey got 40 points, 16 rebounds, and then a huge block in the final minute on Knecht. Now, Dalton Knecht was awesome. 14 of 31 from the field, 6 of 12 from 3, 37 points, 3 rebounds. But if you needed a reminder of who the best college basketball player is, you got it yesterday on America's Most Watched Network, and that was the 7'4" Purdue center who got 40 points, 16 rebounds, and only one foul. He only was called for one foul, 0 3-second calls, and I gather this is the thing that really drives Tennessee fans bananas. Bennett, try to be impartial if you can. Do Tennessee fans have a legitimate gripe here that Zach Edey is just being real big and real rough with everybody, and those officials, they won't ever call nothing on him?
The reason I don't think so is because you've heard this all season from opposing teams when it comes to Purdue, that they don't get in foul trouble. And so I think that that's actually you're assuming that the referees just are in favor of Purdue every game because they just don't get into foul trouble. I think that Zach Edey's 7'4", dude. He's gonna block a lot of shots. He's gonna contest a lot of jumpers. So I think that there'd be some grand conspiracy to say that Purdue got a favorable whistle this entire season.
It's just it felt like yesterday, like half of Twitter was watching Purdue and Zach Edey for the first time. Like, this is the way they play. This is the way he plays. This is what he does. This is the way it's officiated. If you thought, if part of your strategy was, I hope they call 3 seconds on Zach Edey a lot. Well, they don't call it. And I know you can find stuff on the internet where, that looks like that's a lane violation. That looks like that should be a 3-second call. But if you go into a college basketball game with the hope that suddenly the game is going to be officiated different than it's been officiated all season, well, that seems like a poor strategy. And as it pertains to the actual basketball stuff, you're exactly right. Purdue doesn't foul. Tennessee fouls a lot. So without even watching the game, even before it tips off, you can reasonably assume that Tennessee's going to be called for a lot more fouls than Purdue is. Just based on nothing more than the data that's available, this is what's going to happen. And Tennessee is it's interesting because when people around that program want to compliment the strengths of it, what you'll hear often is, defensive minded, really tough, really physical. They'll really guard you. They're gonna, I think that the common phrase that gets thrown around all the time is it's like playing tackle football when you play Tennessee. That's the roughest team you're ever going to have to play. So then to come out and act like it's crazy that you're getting called for fouls, well, you were one of the teams in the country that fouls more regularly than anybody else. So I just wasn't shocked by the way that played out. And the real failing on Tennessee's side, to the extent that there was one, because at the end of it, the truth is they just got beat by a better team with a better player. Tennessee was really good. They had a great player, but they played a team that's better with a greater player. And so the result was a 72-66 loss. But if you're trying to nitpick it, what could Tennessee have done differently? The key to playing Purdue isn't trying to stop Zach Edey. You hear a lot of that. I even hear a lot of it heading into this Final Four. What can NC State do to stop Zach Edey or slow down Zach Edey? We've been having this conversation for 2 years. There ain't no getting that done. He is an overwhelming presence on a college basketball court that is very difficult to deal with. He's bigger than you. He's stronger than you. He knows how to get where he wants to get. He can play right through you. So when you foul him, it doesn't hurt him or bother him sometimes. He's just an awesome college basketball player. So I don't think any strategy, like if you spend too much time trying to figure out, well, how are we going to shut down Zach Edey? Like that's a waste of time. People have been doing it for 2 years. Nobody can do it. The thing is, you've got to make him work on the defensive end of the court. You've got to put him in ball screens, pull him away from the basket, make him guard smaller guys. All of the things they're going to do to him in the NBA that make it uncertain what kind of NBA player he's going to be, that's the kind of stuff you've got to try to do to him at the collegiate level. And Tennessee just never really did it. And they end up not wasting, but an all-time great performance from an all-time great Vol, like, has to go down in history in a losing effort because as great as Dalton Knecht was, Zach Edey was just a little bit better. But that's all you could ask for from an Elite Eight game on Sunday afternoon. Like, you get Purdue, Tennessee, a 1 seed and a 2 seed, and you got the guys who will probably finish first and second in the National Player of the Year voting when all of that is tabulated. To be clear, Zach Edey will be 1, Dalton Knecht will be 2nd, and it will not be close between them. Just because Dalton Knecht might be the 2nd best player in the country doesn't mean he's anywhere close to Zach Edey in a National Player of the Year race. Like, remember when Katie Ledecky, she's a swimmer, and we'd see her in the Olympics, and she'd get the gold, and somebody would get the silver. Like, they'd hand it to some woman. She'd get the silver because she finished 2nd. But she'd finish 2nd like 50 yards behind Katie Ledecky. It's like, yeah, you were the first person other than her. Like, if we can't give the gold to her, I guess we give it to you. But just understand, you're nowhere close to her. That's what this National Player of the Year race was. It was Zach Edey 1, Dalton Knecht 2, and the gap between them very, very big. But yesterday, they were really trading bucket for bucket, scoring in different ways. Obviously, they're vastly different players. But anytime you can get a 1 seed and a 2 seed in an Elite Eight game, and arguably the 2 best players in college basketball going back and forth, both of them going above 35 points, like, that's all-time great stuff. When we're rewatching classic NCAA tournament games someday, like, that's going to be one that's in the rotation. And then, ultimately, with about a handful of minutes to go, it was totally up for grabs. And then Purdue just made more shots and got more stops down the stretch than Tennessee. So they go to the Final Four for the first time since 1980, and Tennessee is reduced to entering next season, still trying to get to the Final Four for the first time in school history. And I know Vol fans were frustrated, and I know it's disappointing because anytime you get that close, you want to take that next step. Just so nobody will ever be able to say that's a program that's never been to a Final Four before. But broadly speaking, I think when you can get a little separation between what happened yesterday afternoon and, a point in time where the hurt is been alleviated a little bit, you'll look back on this and recognize it for what it is if you're a Tennessee fan, and that it's one of the greatest seasons in UT basketball history.
The Gary Parrish Show, live weekdays at 10 a.m.